A very pleasant good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the People's Forum of In the Streets with Big Stone. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a vlog about a young Jamaican man, 30 years old at the time, caught up in the system of living in the United States of America. This young man, his name is Delroy Edwards, but everybody call him Uzi Delroy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I at no time condone any form of wrongdoing. I'm not here to make this man into a celebrity. I'm here to at least share his stories with others so that other young men growing up cannot be trapped or fall suit to how Mr. Edwards' life unfolded. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read to you the court papers, the court proceedings that came out in the New York Times in the United States of America. And I read, a 30-year-old drug dealer who ran one of the largest and most violent drug rings in Brooklyn and was responsible for 6 murders, 17 assaults, a kidnapping, a maiming, and other crimes, was sentenced yesterday to 7 consecutive life terms in federal prison. As the defendant, Delroy Uzi Edwards, stood in federal district court with his hands clasped and his head slightly bowed, Judge Raymond J. Deary said he wished the sentencing could have been on a Brooklyn street so young people could see what this fast-lane lifestyle has to offer. Mr. Edwards, a Jamaican who lives in Brooklyn, was the first dealer to sell crack, the smokable cocaine derivative in the Bedford-Stuyvesant area in 1985. Law enforcement authorities have said. They said he received his nickname because he sometimes concealed a Uzi submachine gun under a trench coat. After a plea from Mr. Edwards' court-appointed lawyer, David Gordon, to impose a sentence that would offer the defendant hope down the road, Judge Deary said, I hope he finds a way to make something of his life. But I believe in my heart that the theme of this proceedings has to be, thou shalt not kill, not eligible for parole. Under the sentence, which calls for 15 years in prison, beside the life sentences and a $1 million fine, Mr. Edwards will not be eligible for parole. Mr. Edwards, who wore a gray business suit, said nothing. His appearance and demeanor yesterday, as well as at the trial last summer, was in sharp contrast to a picture painted by the prosecutors, John Gleason and Johnny J. Frank. At the trial, they had depicted Mr. Edwards as a cold-hearted, brutal, vicious killer who dealt harshly with rival dealers and employees he suspected of stealing from him. In the process, was often responsible for the deaths or injuries of innocent people who happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was convicted on 42 counts. After Mr. Gordon had asked Judge Deary to hold out the possibility of a parole, Mr. Gleason told the court, he's been convicted of the most serious drug offenses. It is the whole smorgasbord of crime that can be brought into this context. No country deserves the risk of it ever being on the streets. Before imposing sentence, Judge Deary said Mr. Edwards has intelligence, street smarts, and leadership qualities and could have made something of his life. Instead, the judge said, Mr. Edwards chose this joyride, this flashy come-and-get-me lifestyle that left in its trail many victims. The judge added that in a sense, Mr. Edwards was one of his own victims and that he pursued his illicit career. He became one of the pioneers of the crack trade. Mr. Edwards, who has been in jail since March 1988, still faces a state murder charge in a homicide in 1987. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've just read what came out in the newspaper of a fellow Jamaican. And why I found this case so interesting was the fact that he was born in 1959. It tells me that he's like 2 years younger than I am. I am 61 years old, will be 62 in July. And when I read this case, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if any of it is true or if it's false, because I was not privy to all the court documents throughout his trial, or I was not sitting in the courtroom to hear what kind of evidence they had on Mr. Edwards. But I can only say this is a powerful brother. A brother that I get to understand who's now a Rastafarian. A brother that still has his wits, very intelligent, very articulate, and very physical. I would only hope that his life story can be an hindrance for future young Jamaican men finding themselves in that kind of a predicament. 7 life sentence. It is not tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lifetime times 7. I know he has family still in Jamaica, preferably in the Kingston area where he grew up. And I will only say to them that out of negative, we're using his life in a very positive way. Mr. Edwards, if you ever get a chance to watch this video, and I would hope that you do, I'm saying as a fellow Rastafari, hold the faith. Hold the faith. What is not done, we don't dash it away. It is a Jamaican saying. Thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a part 2 because Mr. Edwards has sent some personal information and he's looking for a pen pal. For those who want to be the pen pal of Mr. Edwards, you can reach him in the next story that I'm about to read. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you can have a great day. Thank you.